Okay, let's be honest now. It's just you and me. How many of us really started out to be entrepreneurs? I know I didn't. And most of us find ourselves, we're really good at what we're doing. We're good technicians. We're charging hard, whatever industry we're in. And then all of a sudden we start having success and we're kind of forced into the entrepreneurship. Now, some of us do a better job than others. And I've got a very special guest. She did not sign up to be an entrepreneur. And I've asked her to share the story of how she became an entrepreneur. But I got to tell you, she is one of the most talented entrepreneurs out there. And I want you to see not only her experience getting to there, but the lessons learned. Stay tuned.
Ordinary success? No way. You want amazing, remarkable, exceptional breakthroughs. Dig deep, think bold, drive hard, watch yourself soar beyond your dreams. AESNation.com.
Sally Colocho. Sally, I am so excited to have you here. I don't get many entrepreneurs that I get the privilege of interviewing in your industry. And just in the pre-call, you told me if we go in the wrong direction, you might have to take me out. So we're going to stay, because you're in an industry that's high security. So we got to stay focused on this. But first of all, Sally, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, John, I'm really happy to be here. I think it's really fun to look back and see how we built what we built and how I got here. And so talking to you is reminding me of all of that. And you get so caught up with the day-to-day of what's going on now that you forget how you got there. And I think it's a really fun story and a really fun thing to look back at and understand why things are going so well.
And one of the things we want to do that too is to inspire others, because the challenge is Sally and I are in Strategic Coach together, and we have a mutual coach, Dan Sullivan, who's become a good friend for both of us. And I was asking Dan, who would be somebody out there that really has a great story, inspired, that I don't know? And he goes, just points, Sally. And so we were a group of 50 people. And so the idea of this is kind of a virtual mastermind group where we want to share experiences, learn lessons, so that we can help each other be even more successful with our clients. We want to make a difference. And Sally, I always think of the financial services industry as kind of a guy's industry. And, as a woman in the defense industry, in kind of you're in the missile radar side, and, that's not one that you think of, someone in Huntsville, Alabama hanging out, and there's a lot of guys there. I've been there. There's a lot of guys in that industry. To give us a little of the backstory before we get into lessons learned, how did you get there? Because that's not the normal path.
Right. So I studied math and computer science in school, had a dual major, also had a dual minor of French and Spanish. So that doesn't even go together. Lots of interest, but I never thought that I would have an interest in business itself. And my first job out of school was in the area of petroleum engineering. I got a job in Denver writing models and simulations for that industry. And about 5 months in, I get a phone call from a friend of mine who had been a classmate in college. And he said, look, I'm in Huntsville, Alabama. We're doing some really cool work with missiles and rockets and the defense industry. And I think you'd enjoy it. We need your talents. Why don't you come join us? And I said, sure. And I packed up my bags, moved to Huntsville, Alabama, not knowing what was here, thinking Alabama, really. I'm from Louisiana, so I understand, what I was going through there.
You knew a little bit about the South then. So
I knew about the South, but I knew more about New Orleans, Lafayette, great food.
Right, yeah, there is a difference between those two areas.
Right. So, but actually northern Alabama is very different from the rest of the state in that there are so many people we call them imports. There's so many engineers here because of the history with Von Braun and the whole rocket industry here. I mean, I drive down the road every day on the way to work, and I pass a full-size model of the Saturn V rocket, and inside a building, there's a real one of 3 in the world right now, actually in a building for us to enjoy. My daughter's prom was actually underneath that rocket. So anyway, so I moved here right away and started doing what I was doing before, modeling and simulation, writing complex models in different software languages to test things, to analyze data for this industry. And I did that over the course of, almost 20 years for 2 different companies. And I loved it. And it just so happened that the work I did always fell under the radar realm. We've got lots of different system and sensor expertise in this area. We network lots of different sensors to build the shield for the missile defense. And I just happened to always run into work that had to do with radar, so I just naturally stayed there. The way I actually came into the business world was we were working for a smaller company out of California that had started an office in Huntsville. And we actually were able to grow that office to about 80, 90 people. And then at that point, the company was purchased by a large aerospace firm. Well, I had been working on a project to do a different type of testing for algorithms and techniques that were being brought in as new candidates for expanding and making our systems more robust. And I basically invented a new way of testing this by using better simulations, better computer equipment, and just a different methodology. And when this large aerospace firm purchased this company, we realized right away, well, this contract can't stay here. They can't test their own systems. It will be a conflict of interest, and the government will have to reaward this contract somewhere else. Well, obviously, I wanted to keep doing the work I had kind of, pioneered in that testing realm, and we just saw the opportunity, and I said, let's do it. And looking around, we thought actually that the contract would be put out on the street too fast for us to build something from scratch. So I looked around and found someone who was already in business, but hadn't been in business for very long. So they hadn't grown very much.
Let me
yet.
stop you just for a second,
Okay.
Sally, because I want to just take a temperature now, because as entrepreneurs, opportunities show up. Okay. And that wasn't something that you saw coming. It kind of happened, it sounded like. But I want to go kind of, what was the emotion as you were doing this? Was it, of excitement? Was it trepidation? Where were you because now you had been a great, I'm going to call it technician. Extremely talented and senior one, but you were a technician. You were great at your art. And all of a sudden now, you're putting on a different hat.
Right. I think what happened at that point, had circumstances been any different, I might not have jumped, but I was never afraid. I was very confident because the program I had been working on, this project, was very visible in Washington. I'd been briefing, rooms of hundreds of people on what we were doing. We were very successful at it. And I was feeling very, very confident in what I was doing. And I didn't even see that there was anything to be afraid of. There was no fear. And I think it was just by virtue of my confidence in the work that I was currently doing, that technical work made me so confident that I didn't even cringe at the thought of doing something I'd never done.
That's great. So you've got this now, and you're beginning to have conversations with someone because of the timing, that already's got at least a foundation that you could run on. So why don't you take it from there? How did it come together then?
So, we actually had offers from lots of different companies who realized the same opportunity I was seeing. But if I was going to do this, I really wanted to be an equal part of whichever partners we brought together. So when we approached the Decibel Research at the time, it was already formed. We put forth this idea, let's come in all as equal partners. There were 4 of us originally to start this. And everybody realized the potential and said yes. And so we started there, and we just started to grow very quickly. Within 6-7 months, we won the contract that we were looking at. But even before that happened, we already had other work coming in because we had very capable people, very well-known people with lots of skills and expertise that the customers wanted. So they were already giving us small task orders to start working for them as consultants, as analysts. And so I never missed a day of work.
No, well, that's great. And Sally, how did, one of the things, there's that difference from kind of doing, a very small team of doing work. And then, we were talking, you've grown now to 120 engineers. So I don't think anybody's going to call that a small team. And
Right.
there's an awful lot of talent, and why they're talented individuals and all that. There's leadership and management. I mean, how did you learn that on the fly as you and your partners were building the business?
So yeah, I remember the early days. We rented space, and it seemed like every few weeks we were having to renegotiate to get extra space. And as we were doing that, we were renting networks, and we didn't have an IT department. We had some engineers who were basically engineers who did math and science. We didn't do hardware, and most of our cable was done by our CFO. He was running cable in the ceilings while we were trying to just get our work done. But we quickly saw that all you have to do is hire an expert, and they will do the job. And so we quickly found people to work in all of those areas. And instead of trying to do it all ourselves, we said, when we have a need, let's hire the right person to fill this need. And we actually found great people. And this year we were celebrating the company's 11th anniversary, and we've already given out plaques for, I believe it's about 8 or 9 10-year anniversaries for people. And that's not including the founders or the original partners in the company.
No, that is so great. I mean, the one thing I want to, for our fellow entrepreneurs, I've had the privilege of interviewing an awful lot of people on the different programs we're doing. Plus, I've worked with fellow entrepreneurs as, financial, kind of a personal chief financial officer for a lot of very successful entrepreneurs. And the one thing, Sally, that I see that you did, and you said it kind of, just, of course we did it this way, is if there wasn't something we knew, we just hired the expert at it. And I think so many entrepreneurs, particularly early stage, feel that they have to do everything on their own. Now, sometimes you have to pull cable. One of my businesses, I pull the cable too, so I do know how to do that. Okay, but there's bootstrapping. But then when you're getting traction, and you need to bring in the right talent to help you. And how did you find the talent to help you in the different areas?
Well, I mean, I had been in Huntsville since 1988. So if you do the math, and you did call me a young woman before, so I started when I was 4. But we had all been in this industry, in this area for long enough that we knew people and they knew us. And I have to say, we've never had an issue having people come to us saying, when you have an opportunity, I want to work with you guys. We've built a great culture in the company. People enjoy the teamwork we've put together, and since we've been here, we know the people. We've seen them. Most of the people we were able to bring in are people we had worked with before.
Yeah, that's where it's so powerful, having a network and being involved in the community, in your industry and so on, so that you can really find those people, and they're proven versus somebody who raises their hand and says they're an expert. Because I don't know about you, but I've hired some who said they were an expert early on, and they weren't. And that's a real problem.
Right.
They cause more trouble. But let's go a step further, because not only have you guys built a great business, but recently you were sharing with me that you went through a restructuring, and and when you do those things, I mean, this, as entrepreneurs, I mean, you seize the opportunity, which I love. You're opportunistic, and you ran with it. Then you've done this great job of finding the right talent to pull together so you accomplish. Well, as you grow, then different people want different things. There's a need for different capital structures and so on. How did you decide to do this, and how did it work out going through this process?
So in the past, we had basically worked off of our expertise, and people knew us, and that's mostly how we got into new areas of business, and we were growing quite well. We had taken a little bit of advantage of being small business. Obviously, there are a few programs for federal work where there's small business innovative research contracts. We had some of those, but our main focus was not getting work as a small business. Our main focus was getting really challenging problems to solve. So we were at the point where a couple of our owners were ready to not be fully vested in the company anymore. They still wanted to work. They still wanted to be engaged technically, but that's not where their retirement plans were taking them. Mm-hmm. And so we were looking at what do we do? And we actually went through and restructured. And at the end of the restructuring, we came out as a woman-owned business. Actually, I was the one who initially suggested this. I saw, again, it's I don't know what it is about the atmosphere when that happens, but the idea just came up. I said it out loud, and everybody's like, "Yes, we can do this." And what's interesting about that is, as I told you earlier, the federal government seems to think that women are disadvantaged. So they give you there are lots of programs in place to help businesses who are women-owned. There are also some contracts that are set aside for women-owned businesses. So this is really giving us a great position to expand the areas where we're working and actually get into some good relationships with larger companies who can teach us how to go after the larger contracts, how to manage those, and how to put in processes that will help us follow through with any larger contracts that would come in.
No, that's great, Sally. I mean, again, it's a kind of a seize the moment type thing. And, one of the things that you and I were talking about is unfair competitive advantage. And I'm all about getting unfair competitive advantages. I would prefer the government not get it, that we do it. But, I mean, you restructured, you saw that that's the way the game is played. As a woman, I mean, in the South, in an industry that's not known for women leaders, how has that worked for you? I mean, I'm a big believer, I'm kind of in Silicon Valley where, even I'm in finance where it's certainly, there are very few women leaders. And in technology, there's all kinds of press right now that, women are underrepresented. And, I've always looked at it as I want whoever is the best there. And you've earned this role, but how has it been both internally as a woman leader and then externally too in the industry and with the government?
So day to day, throughout the years that I've worked, yes, you run into the occasional, someone assumes you're in the room that you must be the one that's going to make the copies or get the coffee. I've had a couple of those, but not a lot. The bigger ones for me were going to, large meetings in Washington, maybe at the Pentagon, where I have a visitor badge. So when you have a visitor badge, you have to be escorted everywhere, which is not a big deal until the 20 men at the meeting are ready to take their bio break, and you are the one woman and you need an escort to the ladies' room. And then all of a sudden it becomes obvious that you're the only woman in the room. Up until then, I could ignore it or not even see it, not recognize it, but there were those awkward moments. It's, oh, okay. Or there are the military bases where you go and there isn't a convenient woman's restroom in some of the the older buildings because that wasn't expected.
Yeah, 3 buildings across type thing. Actually,
right,
I was in the pilot program in Navy, and my class was the first class that had 2 women in it. And it's, they did the how to structurally handle that was never thought of. And many of the older and a lot of the military installations are very old. Type thing.
Right, and I remember we were about 50 people, and I remember someone from outside the company saying to me, "Oh yes, Decibel, y'all have a lot of women working for you." And I thought for a minute, I said, "Yeah, it's about 50% of the company. That would be about right."
Yeah, no, and it's well, and how has that been? I mean, I mentioned I want talent. I care what color, what gender, what political persuasion. I just want talent. But by being has that been an advantage to you in bringing talent in too, or has it been a disadvantage?
I think what it has brought for me is the approach that I take. I tend to be more of a team building type of person rather than looking at, oh, we have to get in a room and establish a hierarchy. I tend to want to just, let's just get the job done, figure out what everyone's roles are, and pull it together that way. My background before college was I went to an all-girl Catholic school. And obviously, if you're at an all-girls school, the best math student is a girl, the best English student is a girl, the best physics student, again, all female. So, and so growing up, as I came to be a young woman in business, I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to be in these areas, or I wasn't, it wasn't going to be predominantly, male or female. I just went in saying, well, this is what I know how to do, and I'm going to do it. And it was only as I progressed I realized, oh, okay, there aren't a lot of women in here, or, oh, I need an escort to the restroom, I'm the only woman. And so it's one of those things that I was aware of, but vaguely, because that's not the environment I had come from. So I think I almost ignored it just by habit. It wasn't an issue for me. Why should it be an issue for anyone else?
Help coach your fellow entrepreneurs who are male, okay, for a second. And one of the things that almost every industry that is kind of number oriented, for some reason, women have not been encouraged to that, and they're just as talented, and there's some unbelievable. I've got a stepsister who's someone like yourself. She's unbelievably talented in this area and math, and it's just, I see over and over again that we miss some of the talent because of our preconceived notion, and particularly in the financial services where I'm really aware there's all kinds of initiatives. How do we attract really talented women to our industry and make them comfortable, so that they can grow and be leaders like yourself? Because the world is becoming more and more competitive. We need everybody rowing together here in that team. Is there any, advice for your fellow entrepreneurs on how they can really, create an environment that's attractive for, all genders?
Well, I think the number one thing is just treat me for who I am as an expert, and don't worry about the male-female part of it. A lot of the things people do to try to overcome that actually, to me, only accentuate the difference. Like when they say, hello, gentlemen, and then they turn to me and say, and lady, I would have been fine with the first and just go, I don't need you to point out that I'm the only woman in the room. Just keep going. And I mean, the other thing that I see a lot in a room, you have a lot of people gathered, maybe you don't have someone who's taking notes, but the initial response will be, oh, we need someone to take notes, and 9 times out of 10, they'll look around the room and it'll get handed to a woman simply because she's a woman. And I think that it almost happens without anybody thinking about it. And quite frankly, a lot of times the woman's going to offer to do it, because the woman's going to offer to do whatever needs to be done, just like anybody else would. So they're not going to resist it. They're not going to put up a fight. And in fact, if they put up a fight, then people think, well, now it's a big deal. Yeah. So turn to the person next to you, whoever they are, male, and say, can you take the notes? Don't look around the room. Just pick the first one that you can. And that's just an example. Going through the he/she and all these documents, for a while people were doing that. I was like, don't do that. just use standard grammar and put he. It's good for everybody. I think it's just acknowledge me for what I've done, acknowledge the talent, and I think we can move on from there.
I totally agree. I mean, that's I'm about 50% as well, and it's talent, and acknowledge that. And I did do for a short period the he/she thing, though, and we stopped. And I'm very quick. I probably overreact the other way, that I don't want to call on a woman because they will volunteer in board meetings or other things. And it's we need to really recognize we're all in this together, and there's so much talent out there, and that we've got to create environments that people want to be on our team so that we can do the amazing things you are. Sally, let me go to the next segment that I'd like to go to. And this is the book of the day. And, I'm a little worried the type of books you read here.
Right. I'm not a big one on lots of business books. I don't know if anything, that would be probably useful to your greater audience. I mean, my most useful book is probably Fundamentals of Radar by Skolnick, and I don't think you need to put that as a reference for most of your...
No. What we talked about, and I thought you had a great idea. You said, well, instead of doing a book, why don't we do something that you use regularly, the Colby? And
Right. So one thing I was exposed to with the strategic coach, and it happens the first year you're in the coach, and I've been in for 8 years, but the Colby Index, and it's a system by Kathy Colby.
Let me I'm going to put it up on the screen just for a second. It's spelled KOLBE.com, and Kathy Colby. And Sally, why don't you tell us what it is? Because if they're in strategic coach, they're used to having it on their name badge, but other than that, they're not.
So it's a test you take online, and there are 4 areas of thinking or problem solving that it addresses. The first is fact finder. And that's how much you need to research or how many details you need to solve problems or do your job or approach things. There's follow through, and that's your willingness or your wantingness to follow a process or establish a process, and basically kind of, I think of it as checklists or needing to lay out the plans for something and follow them. Then there's a quick start. I'm really good at that. That's where I'm very high quick start, and that's your willingness for your acceptance of change, and I think of it as that's my shiny new idea. I get very distracted, and of course if you have a lower value in that index, you're resistant to change. And then the last one is implementor, which is more your need to have a physical model of something to understand it, or build a physical model or a tangible model, versus lower indexes, an abstract concept. And what I learned with this, everybody in the coach takes this index, and for us, it's more of an acceptance of, oh, this is who I am, and it's okay. You go through life thinking, why am I like this? Why do I keep getting distracted? Why, when someone says something, do I have 99 ideas and never follow through on any of them? But you take this and you realize it's okay, because there are other people I can add to the team that will do the other parts and who love doing the other parts. The biggest thing it did for us in our business is, you can imagine with engineers and highly technical people, you have some people who are extremes in some of these areas, especially in fact finder and follow through. And when you start putting people who are very low and very high in these indices on the same team, you can have a lot of miscommunication, misunderstanding, and the team doesn't work right. And we were experiencing a little of this in some of our larger teams we were putting together. And by using the Colby, we had everybody take it. We had someone from Colby Corporation come on the phone and give us some lectures and some help with some of the teams. And then we understood, I have a medium fact finder. It's a 4. I do enough research to have information to have an idea, but I don't know all the details to implement it. And I would get carried away. I would get overwhelmed with finding all those details. Well, I had someone on the team that we were working on that was a very high fact finder. And she kept saying, she's hiding information from us. Obviously, she's hiding information, because there's no way anyone could get things done like she's doing without this information. Well, in fact, she would need that information. I didn't need the information. And once we understood that together, we changed the way we communicated and realized if she needed more information, she should go research it for the group and bring it back to all of us, and everyone who needed it would have it. And so it just really helped us work through how to communicate and how to build our teams. And I can't speak enough about it, because it's really helpful.
It's really a great tool. And one of the things that's so interesting in Strategic Coach, Dan is probably the biggest supporter. Dan Sullivan, the head of Strategic Coach, he is a big supporter of Kathy and the Colby Index. And one of the things that was very eye-opening to me, Sally, was when I went around the first meeting when I had it done and looking at my fellow entrepreneurs' name tags and seeing that, entrepreneurs come in a whole bunch of different models too. I mean, you and I are aligned, actually. I'm a real quick starter, and I do like research. I've got a whole research arm, but I don't need as much as my research people to
Right.
go do it. And I do like shiny new things, and I need those other people to keep me in check, so that, it's assembling the team, knowing each other's, and then all of a sudden we get it, and we're, we both, cause what's the matter with them? Why do they have to have all this or that? And I found it very useful as well. And I would encourage everybody, let me just, we'll put it in the show notes again. You can go to aesnation.com and we'll have the whole transcript of the interview as well as all the links that Sally and I talk about, including Colby. Let me go to the next section here, Sally. And this is the application of the day. What I'm looking for is, for your fellow entrepreneurs, something you actually use in your smartphone that's been a great tool for you.
Okay, again, I'm going to go back to another coach item, and that's Win Streak, and that's an application that they've just put out. Dan talks about every night writing down three big wins for the day. It puts you in a great confidence area before you go to bed. And then you write down 3 big wins for the next day. So the reason I like this tool so much is not so much, I love writing down my 3 big wins for the day because it just makes me happy that things have happened. But the best part about it for me is writing down the 3 big wins for the next day, because I realize when I write those down, I pick the 3 issues or problems that I wish I could get solved the next day. And I think somehow by going to bed on that note, my brain is working on them. The subconscious starts working. And when I wake up in the morning, I basically have the answers to them. And they're no longer the big deal. I find other big things to accomplish that day because I've already solved them overnight.
Yeah, it is. There's a whole, positive psychology this is all built around. And it's a great tool. Matter of fact, let me put up so everybody has it. It's Win Streak. You can just Google it and you can pull it up. It's available both in the App Store for iPhone and on Google for Android. But it just got written up in, I think it was Forbes magazine.
Right.
We were together in a coaching program, and Kathy Davis shared. She's one of the key people at Strategic Coach and had been one of the project leaders on this, that they had just gotten written up as the #1 in this one best of 10 business application. So as biased as Sally is and I am, the rest of the world's starting to see the value of this. So I would definitely encourage everyone to really take a look at it. Let me go.
And I've given it to a bunch of my employees, and they love using it. So it's something that it's not just for you; it's for the people who work around you, because it actually benefits the entire team.
It really, what I like is it's that positive focus. So often there's a concept that Dan talks called mind the gap, and that you're here, you set this big goal, and you don't quite hit that big goal. And most of us as entrepreneurs get all caught up that we failed. That gap between where the ideal and actual is just big, and we forget to look back. And we kind of started the interview just saying, looking back at the progress over your career, Sally, the impact that you've made, the number of people that you've helped, the difference you've made in the world, and it's easy to lose track of that. And when we start doing it on a daily basis and start not focusing on, the mind can go immediately to the negative things, but we focus on the difference we made in that day, it's huge. And then, you said it really well, the focusing, at the end of the day before we go to bed, and okay, these are the things that are going to be wins tomorrow. You prioritize, you're there, you visualize it. Now, I don't know about you, I've found that sometimes I don't actually get those wins, but more often than not I do. And that's really the power of this.
Right. I always say the next day I might write those down as my wins for that day, but often they aren't as big as I thought they were, because I've already solved them and I have 3 other ones to add to the list.
Yeah.
So it's all good. It's all positive.
No, this is something, as entrepreneurs, we're really blessed that we get to make a difference. And this is one of the best tools to do it on a daily basis. Let's go to the next segment. This is resources. And Sally, I don't know, a lot of times I've got gurus and experts on the line, or in the video that we're filming, and they've got all kinds of things on their website. I'm going to pull up your website because I'm sure a whole bunch of people, including me, when we first met, I immediately Googled you and looked at your website and pulling it up, and it's got all kinds of military things going on because you're very crucial. I mean, what you do. I love the slogan "Protecting those who protect us." I mean, it's mission critical type elements, and one of the things. Having been in the military, I'm a total believer that I want to arm anybody who puts himself in harm's way. I want to make sure they're extremely well prepared. So if you want to see what Sally's doing, you can take a look at the website, and everything that's not top secret is there. Well, let me go to the last segment here. And this is key takeaways, Sal. And I just want to go over what I've learned. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of notes here, and the one thing that I look at, and you started by saying you were the accidental entrepreneur, and I'll tell you, you're a phenomenal entrepreneur, and what you did is you seized the opportunity. I mean. All of us, the train only goes by every once in a while, and it's easy to miss. And as entrepreneurs, no matter what level you're at, there are opportunities. Now, as you have more success, one of the biggest challenges is we've got to have a great team to keep us from trying to get on too many trains of opportunity here. But you've seized, and you gave us a couple of great examples. And you want to keep your eyes open for opportunity because there's so many out there. And at the level you're at, you have the ability to skip levels by finding the right opportunity. So number one. Number two, the advice I love, and mainly because I'm a big believer in it, because I didn't do it in the beginning in my first couple businesses, and later on, I just find the expert. Find somebody who's proven, do it ideally in a community where people that know people, and it's introduced. It's not a Google search, who's the expert at this type thing, but find the expert. You can bring in a consultant. They're really inexpensive compared to you learning how to do it and taking you away from the opportunity cost. And then the third is really focus on team building. Understand the strengths, and I don't want to call it weaknesses, what people are good at and how they think about it. And the Colby Index is just so powerful a tool to do that. So, Sally, I really appreciate the time today and your willingness to share with your fellow entrepreneurs all these insights.
Well, I really enjoyed it. I thank you for asking me to do this. It was a wonderful experience, and I'll go home with a very positive focus, having looked at how we got to where we are today, and I'm going home happy.
Well, and you know what? And everyone out there should take this moment for a quick positive focus, which is just taking a look at the progress you've made over the years. You're successful entrepreneurs. You're making a difference. But we have more opportunity ahead, and your current clients, your future clients, and all your strategic partners are counting on you. So go out and make a difference. Wish you the best of success.
Thank you, Ron.
Exceptional, remarkable breakthroughs. AESNation.com.